So let's begin to look at this guy called Joe versus the volcano, and let's see what's in it for us. I took the liberty of changing some things to enable them to be symbolic for us. And Tom Hanks plays this role, and for those of you that have not seen the movie, it's about a guy who was going to work every day. It was very depressing. I mean, when you see it, I mean, the photography is very dingy looking and gray and very dim lighting, and the people are going and looking drab, doing the same old thing every day in the same old way. Some of you work with people like that. There are faces that you wish you never ever saw. Am I right? I mean, if you never saw them again, it would be too soon. Now, am I right? I'm going right, all right? So this is what was going on. This guy was going into this job where it was a dead-end job. He wasn't happy. He was miserable, and many of us can identify with that. He knew that he was capable of doing more, but he had really given up on himself. He had really sold himself out. Yeah, some of us have done that. He made a trade-off. For whatever reason, he decided to do this. This is why we can identify with him. And the volcano is symbolic of the challenges that we invariably face in life, of the problems that many of us run away from handling. And he had to handle this. And how did he come in contact with this volcano? Well, what happened was he was going to this doctor constantly. He's a hypochondriac because he wasn't living his purpose. His dream had not found his life work. He would create illnesses for himself. And so what happened in the process, this doctor decided, he set him up really. See, when you're not living your goal, you go through life living like a victim. People can set you up for anything. They can run any kind of game on you and you go for it. I had a saying when I was in radio, stand up for what you believe in because you can fall for anything. Well, Joe didn't believe in very much, including himself and his dreams, see? So he was very vulnerable. And so Joe was set up by this doctor. This doctor told him that he had a rare disease and he had 6 months to live. This disease was called a brain cloud. Oh, Kadumbo Joe went for it. He believed it. But you know something? It changed his life. It changed his life. And so he was told, look here, you don't have long to live anyhow. The guy said, why don't you do this? I'm going to give you all my credit cards, and this way you can live like a king, and there's something I want you to do. There was a catch. There's a volcano on an island that's about to erupt. And unless somebody jumps in that volcano, sacrifice their life, these people on this island will perish. Well, your life isn't worth much if you don't have that long anyhow. So why don't you take my credit cards, all my American Express, MasterCharge, take all of them, go live like a king and die like a man. And Joe said, okay. What did he have to lose? He was going to die anyhow. And his life didn't have any meaning and value to him as it was. So this was no big sacrifice on Joe's behalf. Now that says something about us, people, human beings. That when you have not structured your life so that it can have some meaning and value for you, that you'll be willing to throw your life away into anything. See, the volcano could be alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be a job that does not meet who you are. That you go through life, you're doing it so long, you're operating in this and you're acting out that role of mediocrity for so long, you think it's you. It could be a relationship that's no longer giving you what you want and creating dis-ease in your body. It could be any kind of circumstance, like in his work environment. It was toxic. It wasn't good for him. But he didn't have the guts to do anything about it, to act on it. So therefore, it was making him miserable. And as a result, he couldn't see the beauty of life. In fact, in the movie, see, they had in the concrete, there was a daisy growing up through the concrete. But people were so caught up in the depression and the gloominess of life, they couldn't even see the daisy when somebody just stepped on it one day. They couldn't see the beauty in life. See, that's what can happen to you in life, that you can get so caught up in the misery of it and the pain and the sickness and the depression and playing a victim and blaming everybody and everything rather than taking responsibility. It will blind you from seeing the stuff out there that's really beautiful. That's what Henry David Thoreau meant when he said that most people go through life in quiet desperation. They're miserable. I have friends been married for years, live in 2 different rooms. Why would you live like that? I mean, miserable, don't even talk to each other, grumble. I think that was supposed to mean good morning. miserable, just making each other miserable. Why live like that? People go to work like that. I said, why even show? I used to work with a guy like that. You couldn't say good morning to him before 9 o'clock. He'd look around and say, does he know me? Anybody know me? No, you don't talk to me before 9 o'clock. I don't play that, all right? I mean, the people like, how many ever work with people that are just grumps? Raise your hand, just miserable. Why show up? Come in complaining every day. The best day on the job is when they're absent.
Within the context of the world that we live in today, this is the key. I firmly believe that when we begin to understand the truth of who we are, the reasons that we hate begin to vanish. The hate is based upon a way of thinking. We've been taught that nature, for example, the fundamental rule of nature is competition, conflict, struggle. And when I say that to an audience, they say, okay, Greg, big deal. Charles Darwin, he said that was 150 years ago, but hey, this is the 21st century. We have the internet. What difference does it make? And it's a really good question. And the young people, when I speak to the young people, they're amazed at the answer. And the answer is, yes, this is the 21st century. And the society that we live in today, the foundations of the society were put into place in the late 1800s. Precisely at the time the theory of evolution was being embraced wholeheartedly by the scientific community. Our economic system is based upon this theory of competition. Our corporate system is based upon this theory. The way we share vital resources, energy, and food, and water in the world, it's all based upon this thinking of competition, conflict, struggle, scarcity. This is what we said to the UN. And as we globalize our world, and we're not turning back, we aren't going to go back to the world. I'm amazed how many people I talk to, some of my family members included, that say, this is a speed bump in the road of life. And they remember what used to be, and they say, well, when things get back to normal, we won't have these problems. I said, well, what do you mean? They said, when things go back to the way they used to be. We've never, as a society, we've never been given the opportunity to mourn the passing of the world that became familiar to us earlier in our lives, and that world is gone, and we cannot go back to a world that no longer exists. And as people begin to embrace that we are now living the new normal moving forward, this isn't a temporary speed bump in the road of life. It's a very, very different way of thinking. But as and when I say mourn, I don't mean we have to have a big, outward, sad expression. It is the acknowledgement that the world changed, and so many of the things that were familiar to us no longer exist.
Such as? What's changed? What would we mourn? What was that way of life?
One of the things, I have worn boots all of my life.
I love your boots.
And one of the things I really have noticed is the little mom and pop shops have given way to corporate big box stores and conglomerates and things like that. And one of the places I noticed that is I used to be able to walk down the street, and this is just a silly example for me, but if I had a problem with my boots, I could walk into a mom and pop boot store and they could fix it in a heartbeat and I'd be on my way. You have to walk many, many blocks to find a store that is willing to work on your shoes these days. But the little, home businesses and the mom and pop kinds of shops, and for me, that's one of the places where I see it showing up. The corporatization of media is a place where I see it. A relatively few number of companies own all the media. The media, different radio stations, different companies, but they're all owned by the same conglomerate.
So it's 3 pounds, and it uses 20% of the blood flow. That said, the way I think habits function, these are my ideas, is that because it's such an energy hog, it wants to be efficient. So this whole myth about you only use 20% of your brain, no, we use 100% of our brain, and pictures show that. But to get things done, we might only use 15. To get something complicated done, we might only use 35. Otherwise, you wouldn't be an efficient animal or a human in the savannah if you couldn't really control this important, but not having it in 5th gear all the time is an evolutionary strategy, in my opinion. So I explained to my kids, okay, so then it falls into ruts, because efficiency is about ruts, like dominoes falling in a certain path. And the best way I can explain it is, as you grow, the brain, the way the electricity flows, the way the connections prioritize, is a bit like skiing down a mountain. It starts creating these electrical grooves of sort, where if you see something, you see a cliff, fear, it goes down a certain path. And every time you do that and you've reinforced it, it actually becomes less expensive energy-wise to follow and fall into that habit. So these pathways, these habits in our mind, these rituals, these things that are good for us, we want to hold on to those. But a lot of them have become deeply carved, routes down the mountain. And filling those in, burying them, and finding healthier ones is going to be an energy expending process. Okay, the effort will be harder in the beginning, and then as you create a new route down the mountain, you can condition yourself to having more favorable and constructive responses. That's the best way I can explain is why effort will lead to change, and your most effort will be spent in the beginning, and then you can change your emotional and cognitive responses by conditioning yourself to find a different route down the mountain.
So what happens is, with extreme ownership, with the dichotomy of leadership, we get these principles across people, and we did it in the most simple, straightforward possible way that we could, which is we tell a war story, we tell what the principle is, and then we show an example from the business world. And I'm saying we because I wrote these books with a buddy of mine, Leif Babin, that I was in the SEAL teams with. And so that's what we did, and it's pretty straightforward, but we have a consulting company too. So as we go around and talk to people, we start hearing questions, and then I have a podcast and people send me questions all the time. And these questions are really about how do I take these principles, because they get the principles, they can explain the principle, they can quote you the principle, but then they get faced with a problem and they don't understand how to actually apply the principle. So on my podcast, I was answering these questions all the time of, hey, what do I do when my boss wants all the credit? What do I do? And what do I do when I've got a young individual that has a lot of potential, but they're not really taking advantage of it? They're not motivated to make things happen. What do I do then? And question after question after question after question. And I realized, okay, I need to actually put these principles in a field manual that people can pragmatically take the lessons, take the principles, and apply them to what's happening in the world. And that's what I try to do in the new field manual.
It's funny, and I guess when I first was really going in the 80s, you hit that horrible recession, and people talk about how did banks get so big, because the government took a few of the big banks and said, you're going to take the good assets and we're going to take all the bad assets, and that's why you have banks that are too big to fail today, because they're roll-ups of bank after bank. And the late 80s were tough, and I was getting going, and you just realize when other people were filing bankruptcy, you just got to keep punching and punching and punching, and people don't realize how much you can take, and if you just keep punching and find a way to get out of the mess. And you know what's funny? This is a great story, and I talk about it in the book. I was doing business with like 9 or 10 banks in the late 80s in Texas, and it was really getting tough, and to make payments or whatever, starting to default on some by a few days. Every single bank that I did business with failed before I did. Is that not a crazy story? And I know that's hard to believe, but the FDIC would come in every Tuesday into Houston in the late 80s and close down 4 or 5 or 6 banks. So over about a 6-month period, every single bank failed that I did business with. And you would call and say, so what do I do with these payments? And there was such a bureaucracy. I truly got a 3-4 year reprieve. Wow. And then in 1990, I remember somebody calling my office and saying, Mr. Fertitta, we have these notes of yours. We would like you to come in and talk to us. But in that time, I was able to go and keep building my company, and was able to pay them 100%. No interest though.